Well, as promised, now joined after some trials and tribulations and travel by TJ Lang. Came back from Green Bay Thursday night. I know that trip took you a little bit longer, but after a win, it always seems to the travel is a little bit easier. What was the plane ride back like?
Quiet. By the time we got on at 5:30 in the morning, I think everybody was pretty much all celebrated out. But no, that like after the game, we're sitting at normally for our listeners, you get out. Primetime games always take a little longer. You go and you shower, you do the media. Obviously, the primetime games, they have the post-game show where, we saw Jared Goff and Montgomery out there with the Amazon guys. So, you're always going to sit on the bus a little bit longer. It got to a time where it's like, okay, this is starting to get, this is concerning. This has been a little too long. And you start looking around and, you hear rumblings. Oh, going to be delayed. Something wrong with the plane. All right, no problem. So everybody kind of gets off the bus and you're hanging at the stadium and, all the players at least were in a great mood and, out there talking and reminiscing about what had just happened. The coaches are having a good time. We go to the airport. All right, plane's on its way. We got to get a new plane. About an hour later, oh, no, plane still hasn't taken off yet from Minnesota. It's coming from. Okay, all right, we'll try to, still celebrate, sit in the airport. Beautiful Green Bay, Wisconsin. By the time we got on the plane, it was pretty damn dead quiet, though. I think everybody was worn out. They were worn out, man. The players were worn out. It had just, been a long day. But it was a great weekend, I think, and I even asked Coach after the game, I said, usually Victory Mondays are the best day you can have in the NFL. You get a Victory Friday, a Victory Saturday, a Victory Sunday, a Victory Monday. And you always want to hit those weekends off a win. You don't want to lose those games and then have to let it sit and sink in and simmer for 4 days. You just want to get back to work. It was an impressive win, man. It felt completely dominating. And even with that even when it got to like a 10-point game there in the second half, it was like, all right, offense, come on now, let's go. Let's just go put this thing out. And they took care of business. You don't usually see that, especially Thursday night games on the road against a division opponent. Those are always some of the toughest games. Body's not really recovered yet. By Thursday, you're running on fumes. You got to go out there and try to figure out a way to get the job done. They had a couple guys still playing through some injuries, right? I think Decker clearly, the way he spoke after the game, wasn't feeling 100%, but he knew that was a big game for his teammates. Montgomery, probably still a little banged up with the thigh that, we saw against Seattle. Those guys go out there, put on gritty performances. Brian Branch gets hurt at some point in that game, goes to the locker room, gets carted off, comes back on the sideline, working on, he goes back in the game, makes a couple tackles, kind of gets banged up again. Like it was just kind of a gritty performance, and I came out of that game thinking one thing, this is a tough ass football team. Like this is just a tough ass football team, man. Like these guys don't blink. They don't get phased. They don't get down on each other. There's no bitching and complaining on the sideline about play calls or play time or anything. You know what I mean? It's just it's so synchronized right now that these players are just having fun. They trust the coaches. They trust each other. Even when things go bad, it's like, well, let's just go out there and get it done, man. Let's go find a way, and they have that type of attitude. And I think, honestly, we've kind of nitpicked. I know I have, especially Jared Goff, the first couple games. Hey, he's playing good football, but there's always, that one play where you can't make that play, right? Can't do that. He had another one to start the game against Green Bay, right? Just a bad decision, turnover early in the game. It's like, oh boy, here we go. And for him to follow that up with a touchdown drive and then continue to go on and score 27 straight points, that to me is mental toughness, because there's a lot of players in this league, especially at the quarterback position, where something goes wrong and they either clam up, they're afraid to make another mistake, or it just starts to compound into more another bad pick, another error, another misread, because now you're starting to press too much. And for Jared Goff to not let that affect him, to go back out there, all right, boys, my bad, I'll get it fixed, let's go. And that's what it looked like. And that to me is mental toughness. And I think that it starts with him on that team. It starts with Dan Campbell more than anything, because he instills that in his players, the grit and the toughness. But when you have a quarterback that plays like that too, that's what everybody's looking at. All eyes are on the quarterback at all times, practice, games, meetings, it doesn't matter. You are the one guy people look at. And when you're able to have that fortitude and when you're able to have that mental toughness, it's going to be contagious to the rest of your team. And that certainly was the case on Thursday night.
I talked on Friday about the resilience of this team. And when you have, and we're going to talk in just a few minutes about where Jared Goff is right now, where he ranks amongst current NFL quarterbacks that are, through 4 games. But I talked about the fact that, hey, you go out there, you throw that interception. I think it shows great, like the fortitude that you talked about, but it's also Jared Goff is not in his first or second year. He's not even with his first team. He has seen this before, unfortunately for him, but fortunately for us, he's had that experience going out there throwing an interception. And in previous years, you might have seen Jared Goff do all of those things that you talked about, but because he is experienced and he knows that there are still, the majority of the game is still to be played, he can go out there and change that narrative, which he did. But the Lions were put in a bad position. Yeah. Green Bay's first possession, they get the ball on the Lions 16-yard line. They go absolutely nowhere with it. And they're forced to kick a field goal. And then after that, it was, a touchdown by the Lions. It was 4 possessions where they scored a touchdown or a field goal that and going into halftime up 27-3, you're like, okay, this team can be a dominant team offensively and defensively in that game. Is there anything that surprised you or you didn't expect where you're like, wow, this showing up really kind of takes it over the edge for me?
The coverage I thought was outstanding, especially in the first half. I know Green Bay's receivers made some circus catches there in the second half. They hit some chunk plays and kind of crawled their way back a little bit, but the coverage I thought was much better because a lot of those sacks, probably 3 of those 5 sacks, Jordan Love's just kind of standing there and has absolutely nowhere to go with the ball. And that tells me the guys in the back end are starting to communicate better. The chemistry's getting better. They trust each other. You don't see receivers running wide open like we have in the past. But I got to tell you, I think the thing that continues to surprise me, and you even pause a little bit and you say, like, is this who we are or are we kind of overachieving right now? Right. And you look at some guys, the individual performances. We all know Aiden Hutchinson is who he is. Like he's turned into that player that's a stud. He's turned into that bell cow. He's turned into the difference maker on that defense. He's done it multiple plays every game so far through 4 weeks, right? It hasn't been a flash week 1 and then nothing week 2 and then a flash week 3 and then nothing week 4. You know what I mean? Like he's doing it game after game after game. He is who he is. He's going to be a problem for a lot of teams. It's the supporting cast that I think maybe not surprised, but Isaiah Buggs missing the first 2 games, coming out against Green Bay and having a couple big tackles and a sack, right? Ali McNeil completely shutting down a whole drive by himself with a TFL and with a sack on back-to-back plays and putting a team in 3rd and 22, right? Like just completely destroying the other team. Like those to me are, like I said, I don't know if I'm surprised by it, but it's something that like we've been missing. We didn't know we had. Guys like Charles Harris making a difference. Guys like Derek Barnes, turning out to be a damn good player after, all the concern kind of around him and the linebacking crew. I think the biggest positive surprisement that I've had, though, it's got to be the defense. I mean, because you look at them and you say, what's really different about this team from last year, right? The difference was going to be the secondary is going to be CJ Gardner-Johnson. Well, he hasn't played the last couple games. He's been out. He's done for the season, most likely. Pretty much the same players you've had last year, right? I think the biggest positive surprise has been Aaron Glenn, the position that he's getting these guys in, and just the hunger that they're playing with, man. Because if you have one game like we did against Atlanta where you're completely destroying the other team and shutting them out and no run game and sacks and hitting the hell out of everybody, you could say, okay, maybe they were just fired up that day. You come back and do the exact same thing 4 days later, that starts to become your identity. And I think, honestly, I feel this is a damn good defense. I do. I feel like this is a damn good I feel like they have the potential to be a top 5 defense. And they've been that way throughout the run defense. But just the last couple games, they've looked absolutely dominant. And that's against I know Atlanta, we look at Desmond Ridder, but you look at the run game. I mean, that's a team that was running for about 180 yards, a game, and you shut them out. Green Bay, you look at and say, okay, I know we still got questions about Jordan. That was a 2-1 football team at home on primetime, and you went out there and just completely dominated that game. I think for me, the defense, I think they're legit, man. I think they are.
So the surprise to me was the adjustments that Aaron Glenn made. And so it's the same thing that you're talking about with the defense playing well, but being able to shift things where, hey, okay, now it's 2 weeks that you're down CJ Gardner-Johnson, and Tracy Walker has stepped up and played well. You don't have Kirby Joseph, but you've been able to get other guys in position to make plays. They've utilized Bryant Branch. They're using Aiden Hutchinson in a number of different ways. And I think Aleem McNeil he started playing well mid-season last year. We know and we heard all about, his offseason, how much work he put in. He's trimmed down a little bit. He is a little bit quicker, and he hasn't lost any power, which I think is nice, or at least not any anchor in there. You lose some weight, chances are you gotta, you could lose a little bit of that anchor, and he hasn't. But it's how they're utilizing Hutch up front. They'll line him up over the guard. And I mean, hey, him and John Runyon Jr. were teammates at Michigan, and he absolutely abused John Runyon Jr. But then you move him up, over the other guard, or you stand him up. And when I played Jason Taylor, he used to do this too. We used to call it a spinner, where he would line up almost like a linebacker position, but he would be walking around. At the snap of the ball, they would try and time it up so that he was where the defense expected him to be, whether it was over me as a tackle, over a guard, or, a number of different places.
Yeah.
But it makes it very hard if you have one guy that you're trying to set your protection to. And right now it's for the Lions, it's Aiden Hutchinson going up against them. Hey, where are we going to set that protection if we don't know where he's lining up? And that little split second of indecision can be the difference between pressure, sack, or the ball getting off and a completion downfield. So I think Aaron Glenn has done a really good job of changing up, pass coverage in the secondary, going to some more man, because that's his personnel. Cam Sutton's played well.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to get Mosley back, hopefully this week. We heard he was close, but all of a sudden now you have a defense that can apply pressure on quarterbacks. You can apply pressure with just 4 guys. They didn't really bring any blitzes. And you've got a secondary that they're finding a way to cover guys downfield.
Yeah, and you nailed it. I mean, the biggest key was, I talked to Aaron Glenn after the game, sitting in the airport, and I said, how many times did you blitz tonight? And he was like, 4.
Yeah.
And most of them were on run plays, where you try to get a good, well-timed first down blitz where you get a guy coming off the edge and disrupt the timing of the handoff and, try to get some penetration. But that is the 100% the key, is having 4 guys that can generate pressure without sending more, right? Mm-hmm. Because we obviously know I don't care who you are on defense, you can't cover guys for 5, 6, 7 seconds in this league.
And if you got 7 guys that are dropping, you're covering a lot of area.
Yeah, you're covering a lot of area with a lot of guys, and that's just, especially the last 2 games, being able to generate that pass rush and be that disruptive with sending 4 guys. And look, it's not all just on Hutchinson. It's not just one guy that's going out there and getting, 4 out of the 5 sacks or 5 out of the 7 sacks. I mean, they're kind of spreading it around a little bit. And I think the biggest thing, man, like there was something changed that Atlanta game, right? Coach there was kind of some accountability after the Seattle game about, hey, Hutchinson's getting double teamed, triple teamed. I mean, he's getting hit from the back on his way out. Look across the line. You other guys, you got one-on-ones and nobody's winning them, right? And we saw some personnel changes in that Atlanta game. First, third down, you got Derek Barnes, a linebacker, lining up as defensive end. Yeah. And that kind of sending a message to the rest of the guys, hey, if you can't get it done, I'm going to find somebody that can. Ever since that, it's kind of like the switch has gone off. The guys are starting to understand the urgency a little bit. They're starting to understand, I got to find a way to win one-on-ones. John Kaminsky was a guy last week who had kind of a underrated game. I think he finished with I think they gave him the half a sack there towards the end of the game. Hutchinson kind of got after Love, and then Kaminsky finished him up. But he had some hellacious rushes on the middle of that defense, bull rushing, pushing the pocket. I mean, there was one play, he took a guard back probably 15 yards, and it was just, those are the type of things that good teams do. Those are the type of things that good defenses do. If you want to try to take away our stud in Aiden Hutchinson, we got 3 other dudes that can beat your ass one-on-one too. And that's something that they've done it two games in a row now. And that's going to be their calling card. It has to be their calling card moving forward. And I think anytime, the challenge, obviously, as a player, John, is being consistent with it, right? Teams are going to start to adjust, how they want to attack you. But if you're the Lions, you can play consistent defense like that. And I'll tell you one last thing, too. Good to see a guy like Jerry Jacobs go out there and have a couple takeaways. I mean, I know he had that Seattle game where he was kind of getting piled on there a little bit, right? I don't think much of that was a personnel issue more than it was schematically.
Jerry's talk about the adjustments.
Jerry's the type of guy you got to get him up on the line, get him in somebody's face. He wants to play physical. He wants to get his hands on you. He can run with you. That Seattle game, I mean, they got him playing 15. That's not who he is. So they've kind of went back to what he's good at, and obviously the 2 takeaways that he had. Great to see a player like that. That's kind of, been a little up and down to have that type of performance. That can go a long way for his confidence. And like you said, with hopefully Mosley coming back and being healthy, that's just going to continue to rejuvenate their defensive backfield. But man, the fire that they play, you know what I mean? Like it's palpable, man. Like you can feel it. Like it's just like, holy shit, this team flies around, man. They look like a dog that hasn't eaten in 2 weeks. You know what I mean? They just look freaking hungry, man. And that's a testament to Dan Campbell. That's a testament to the leaders on this team. Now, big picture, it's 4 games, right? Coaches, I know it's 17 games now, but coach, you always break it down into quarters, right?
Still do.
First quarter of the season, essentially over, right? We went 3-1. Okay. Let's keep doing the things we're doing well. Keep doing those. Still some things we got to clean up. Offensively, I still don't like some of the lulls that they hit there, in the third quarter. I think it was last week. They only had 2 drives, but, 3 and out, and a 6-play penalty, punt. Like you still have a couple drives there offensively that, you got to continue to maximize. But it's a new quarter, right? What you did the last 4 games doesn't matter. No, only thing that matters is what you do starting this week against Carolina, because we all know there's no gimmies in this league, man. There are no gimmies. Go ask Dallas when they went out to Arizona a couple weeks ago and got their ass beat, right? I mean, every single week there's something. Go ask Cincinnati, thought they were going into Tennessee this last weekend and they got their ass beat 27-3, right? So as long as they keep having the same mindset that they've had throughout the first 4 games, man, this is going to be a fun team to continue to watch.
So, I mean, I'm with you that, hey, you got to turn the page, whether it's week to week or quarter to quarter, and they are 3-1. 2 of those 3 wins were in 2 of the toughest places to play in the NFL, at Arrowhead and at Green Bay. Now, obviously, you played on both sides of that Green Bay and Detroit matchup. Coming out of this game in the division, what type of statement did the Lions make by being able to go into Green Bay Thursday night primetime and handle the Packers the way that they did?
Well, massive. I think that they proved what type of team they are. And honestly, I think they kind of showed what team Green Bay is. I think that you go back and just rewatch the game. I mean, the physicality was a knockout. I mean, it wasn't a heavyweight matchup where, we're throwing punches, they're throwing It was we pretty much just kept throwing haymakers at their ass, and they had nothing. They were just kind of running around the ring. The physicality on both sides of the ball was extremely noticeable, and I think that they proved. Maybe I'm not, trying to bash Green Bay. They looked like more of a finesse team. The Lions look like a team that's built to sustain that success, right? Running the ball, stopping the run. That's something that when you come down to games in December and you come down to games in January, those are going to be the 2 biggest factors on who keeps winning and who keeps, moving on and who gives themselves a chance to go do something special. And they look like they're built to do that. But the statement, I mean, obviously we know what Chicago is, right? I think Sunday was, kind of one of those, they're starting to figure it out. Oh, nope, they didn't figure it out. No, they kind of figured it out. Nope, didn't figure it out. They're an 0-4 football team. We know what Chicago is. Minnesota, they get their first win of the season. We kind of know what they are too. They're still a little bit of that finesse type football team. They just want to throw the ball 40 times a game and use Justin Jefferson. I think they made a statement on who the hell they are. I think they made a statement on their toughness. I think they made a statement on their physicality that we don't give a damn who we're playing. We don't care where it's at. Your house, our house, in the freaking parking lot. It doesn't matter. We're going to show up and punch you in the fucking mouth. And that's kind of the message that I think resonated with me after the game and really throughout the weekend. Is this a team when they play like that? We obviously saw it in Kansas City too, but you play like that, you can beat anybody in this damn league. And I think that's the message that's probably getting sent out to everybody else.
So you started off with this. I want to make sure we pay it off in regards to where is Jared Goff right now? How many quarterbacks in this season, through the first quarter of the season, are better than Jared Goff? Is he a top 5 guy?
Right now, I think he is. Yeah. And I think he's playing better than Jalen Hurts. He's playing better than Patrick Mahomes. Does that mean I think he's a better quarterback overall? No. But is he playing better than those guys? I think he is. Yeah, I think he's playing better than Patrick Mahomes, who all of a sudden this year kind of seems to have a little bit of a turnover issue going on and being a little reckless and careless with the football. Now, does he still make amazing plays? Yes, he does. But if you look at the total body of 4 games, I would absolutely say Jared Goff's playing as a top 5 guy. Now, we all know that he went that long streak without interception. It's been 3 games in a row now that he's turned the ball over. And hey, you start playing with fire a little bit, you can get away with it against a Green Bay team. You can get away with it against Atlanta team when your defense is playing outstanding. You're going to run into some games though where that's going to be the difference. Is going to be, we had the 1 turnover. We saw it against Seattle. That was the difference, right? Yeah. I mean, you not only did you turn the ball over, it went back for 7 the other way. So those are some things he's got to continue to clean up. But I think, guys that are playing better, I mean, Brock Purdy playing pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Do I think Brock Purdy's a better quarterback than Jared Goff? No, I don't. But is he playing better? Yeah. And a lot of that is the systems he's in. A lot of that is the team that's around him. And when you have Christian McCaffrey and, you get one-on-ones on the outside every single time, but Brock Purdy's playing good football. Tua's playing good football. I know they kind of, dropped a egg over there against Buffalo this past weekend, but, he's a guy that's playing damn good football.
Justin
Herbert's playing good football. I mean, who else? There's one, Josh Allen. I mean, he's a guy that's playing good football. Josh Allen's kind of the same issue with Patrick Mahomes right now that I see, that just gets still a little reckless with the football. Yeah. I mean, they got a lot of talent around him that they can cover some of those up, but those might be the guys right now that I'm saying are playing better than Jared Goff. But I think Jared's ahead of a lot of other quarterbacks. He's ahead of Kirk Cousins, he's ahead of even like Geno Smith. I think he's ahead of. Is he ahead of Lamar Jackson? I think so. Now Lamar brings a different, aspect with his legs, style. But no, I think I definitely think there's an argument that Jared Goff throughout 4 games has been a top 5 guy, no doubt.
Now there's a chance this week that one guy will be available that wasn't last week. That is Jameson Williams. The NFL came out and said, hey, we're going to reduce that suspension to 4. We've got some new rules. If he had done the same thing with the new rules, he would have only been suspended 2 games. So instead of 6, now it's 4. And Emmanuel Mosley, there's a chance that he could come back. But I know he's been close with the ACL. I know he's had a hamstring as well. If both of those guys are back and available, what do they add to this team?
Right away, I don't think you're going to get much out of Jameson. And look, I think a lot of it just we know this coaching staff, they go with reliable guys. They go with who they can trust. They go with guys that they know are going to go out there and get the job done for them. Right. I think it was a big part of why, and I'm not trying to say anything negative about Gibbs, but that was probably a big part of why we saw Dave Montgomery get 32 carries against Green Bay. The coaches know he's going to go out there. He's going to get the job done. When it comes to 4th quarter, those 2-3 yard gains are going to start turning into 6, 7, 8, and you're just going to start wearing teams down. And that's our reliable guy right now, right? Saw the same thing last year with Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift. I mean, Jamal Williams he proved to be the more reliable guy, right? And he got rewarded by that. So Jameson Williams, I'm not saying he's an unreliable guy, but you're not just going to come back after missing 4 games and just say, oh, yep, here you go. Here's your spot back. Now, look, if he was clear-cut number 1 guy to finish the season last year and you say, okay, we get our stud receiver back, yes, I could see you jumping back in and being that guy, but that wasn't the case last year. And by all accounts, we kind of heard throughout training camp, he's still kind of working his way, man. He's still trying to build the chemistry, right? He's still trying to find a way to keep improving. So if he does play this week, I wouldn't see it more than anything than probably 10, 12 snaps. And just going back to last year, when he came off the injury and he started playing, he would go in and we want to see you run block, man. If you want to play in this offense, you got to block. And Jameson even said something along those lines in training camp, where no block, no rock. I think Ben Jansen told him was the line. So I would see them trying to get him involved a little bit just to get his legs back under him, but I wouldn't expect to see him go catch 5 passes for 100 yards, Now, eventually in 2-3 weeks from now, if he gets his legs back and if he can prove to the coaching staff that he's a reliable guy, it changes. It gives you a new dimension. It doesn't change your offense, but it gives you a new dimension. It gives you something you've been missing the first 4 games, quite honestly, which is a deep threat, which is a guy that can take the top off of defenses and back safeties out of the box a little bit. And we all know that's going to open up the run game. So hopefully that's best case scenario. A couple weeks away, we see him start to develop into that type of guy. And with Mosley, look, you're going to have a good problem back there in the secondary. You're going to have to figure out where you want to put these guys, right? Because right now it's kind of been, we know we've got Sutton. He kind of seems to be your number one guy. We're going to match him up with whoever we feel like, or we're going to put him either on one side to shut down, or we're going to match him up one-on-one with your number one guy. And he's been playing outstanding. But it's been Jerry Jacobs on the other side, right? Does Mosley go back to the outside? Does Mosley go to the inside? Can you be a little bit more flexible with what you want to do with a guy like Brian Branch, who's been playing mostly in the slot? I think it's a good problem to have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you've got it.
More good players is always better.
Yeah, and you can with Aaron Glenn, you can find a way to be creative with how you want to use these guys. We don't know if Brian Branch is playing safety. We don't know if Brian Branch is playing the slot nickel. We don't know if Brian Branch is, playing a dime linebacker position. You know what I mean? Like it gives you a different dimension defensively to just work on your personnel to find a way to get mismatches and try to find a way to continue to put these guys in good positions to make plays on the football. So hopefully Mosley can be what he was in San Francisco, which was a damn good physical pit bull style of corner, brings that dimension back to your team. Kind of very similar to what CJ was going to be for this defense. Just kind of that just little nasty little dude that just won't go away. It's just always around the football. So I'm excited. Hopefully they get him back this week, because I know, they were all excited when they got him on the team and his ability. And that's, man, it's exciting though, right? It just is. Like you just look at the potential. You look at the way they've been playing last couple of games, plus you look at the potential of where they can still go. And it's just like, man, like this is, I'll tell you what though, John, there's been probably one part of each game where you look at and you say, is this who we are? Like, or are we just, is this just our day, right? Or is the other team just having a bad day? Like, what are we? I think I'm pretty confident after 4 weeks to say, at minimum, we got a damn good football team. We got a tough-ass football team. And anytime you play like that in the NFL, man, you're always going to have a chance to win games.
Yeah, I'm excited about it as well. Stay tuned, because later in the week, we're going to give you a little preview for the Carolina game. Carolina's coming to town, and I'm sure it's going to be a bit of a pride issue because of the yardage they gave up on the ground down at Carolina at the end of last year. That loss pretty much kicked them out of the playoffs. But we're going to also give you some updates on some injuries. Will Emmanuel Mosley be available? Will Taylor Decker be available? All of these guys, we'll give you the up-to-date information as soon as we get it. We'll relay it to you. And I know TJ is going to be down in Allen Park, so he'll let us in on anything that he knows about going on down there. So make sure you stay tuned all week long and all season long for Necessary Roughness.